Good morning. Fran, remind me, are we supposed to have everyone?
Christy was the only one I never heard from.
Okay.
Josh is going to be a little late, and Kelly has to leave early, but they'll never be gone both at the same time, so we'll still be able to maintain our quorum.
Okay.
Christy may show up. I don't know. I was never able to get a hold of her.
Okay.
But everybody else should be here.
Thanks. Morning, Bob.
Hi, Mara. Hi, Fran.
Morning.
Hi, Allison. Somebody else there too.
Morning, Heidi.
Morning. I have a patient coming in during this time, so I will go off video and then come back on. Okay.
Got it. And it looks like Kelly's connecting now. Morning, Sarah.
Hello.
We're here. Oh, Chris is connecting. Yep.
Hello.
So Bob, you do have a quorum at this point.
Okay. I know I've been late in the past. Let's give it. Is Josh coming? Josh and Christy?
Josh is going to be late and we hadn't heard from Christy.
Okay, well then let's get started then. Fran, could you call the meeting to order?
Okay, the meeting is called to order at 8 o'clock.
Great. Everybody get a chance to review the minutes from last meeting?
Yep.
If I could get a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Heidi, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by, okay,
Allison.
Allison. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Aye.
No opposition. Okay. I don't see any visitors. Do you, Mara?
No visitors.
Okay. Okay, well, let's get right into the streetscape project. You've got an update for us with the drawings.
Yep, not the best update, only because the engineering firm Cochrane has had to do some quarantining of various people. So it's delayed their ability to get us something for this month. I'm hoping we're going to have drawings before next month, but between quarantining and the holidays, they were delayed. So they are working on it. They've reviewed all of the comments that went back and forth between us and St. Louis County for the numerous months. And they were going to, we talked pretty carefully about the concerns that you all had, like with the Alma intersection and whether, bumping out in one direction versus the other, maybe doing 2 bump outs. We talked through with them, just addressing everything that was in what county required.
Do you have those handy, Mara? Is there any way you could put those up on the screen? I mean, if you need a few minutes, go ahead. That way we're not,
Yep.
at least we can review what we're talking about and
Yeah,
spend just a few
sorry.
minutes on that.
I put other things up already on my screen. I hadn't put those up yet, so hold on.
Take your time.
Crossroads. Crossroads. Hold on, I'm pulling it up. All right, I'm going to stop the share of the one screen. Let's go to this one. So just as a reminder, I'm going to zoom into this because I don't think any of us needs to see the stripes that they wanted us to do all the way off on the side. I think we want to focus more on your area. So they had proposed that we needed to do sort of a larger bump out at Alma right here. And I know a lot of us had said that just seemed so odd. It was kind of bumping the cars out in an odd manner. Cochrane also agreed that they would want to look more closely at how to address both corners to make it much more of a straight manner, but still getting people at a perpendicular to Big Bend, which would be a much smoother and easier to see sight distance. They'll check sight distance, they'll check on where cars would be, make sure that this becomes safe. But they were going to draw essentially everything out based on the striping that county had kind of looked at, but knowing that they really can't do necessarily these bump outs or the little bump that they were going to do to add something to the intersection here. But they will look at that and cost that piece out and see if that could be something that Public Works could address. But they'll be working on, they have this drawing and they have all the emails that went back. So any questions about that?
So Mara, it would be that curbing and the bump outs that are in the white that haven't been touched that appear at first pass are going to be accepted. And then of course, striping.
Yes, the striping and then the new sidewalks, all of that will be
Yeah.
in so that they can get us also cost estimates so that we can break those out and see what we can do with the money that's already been allocated in the capital improvement fund. And then figure out how we would phase it if we don't have, I know we're not gonna have enough for everything because this was at one point, a $500,000 or more project. So we'll have to work with I think we had and apologize, I should have pulled a few more things out, but we have at least about $100,000. So how can we figure out what pieces can be done? Sometimes there's things that our Public Works department can do on their own. When they make certain small repairs, sidewalk sections, different things like that, there might be some things that we can kind of integrate that might be able to save us some money versus putting them out to a contractor, which we would have had to have done through MoDOT if we had gotten the federal funds.
Would we need the striping since we're not going west of the railroad tracks? Would we need striping at this point, or could that be phase two? Where your arrow is or your plus sign is, all that in there at the intersection.
We still need all this in here. We definitely still need all this in here because
the striping, you mean?
This striping, yep, this striping right through this corner intersection. Because of the fact that we are adding more on-street parking, you need to be able to keep the flow of traffic, going around this. And our current striping does not allow for that. So we definitely need to make sure that there's, people are doing the proper movements. So this is definitely still needed. It's a question of their concern is that when you come over here, you're kind of bumped into this immediately. So there's still going to be, there might be a mid phase if we don't have some of the other stuff. But from what I understood from county, they will and know that they need to do the rest of this part of the striping. But we have to coordinate also with what's MoDOT right away versus what's St. Louis County. Because if you don't realize completely, you also have MoDOT in the middle of here. So
Right.
Everything on the bridge is not us, it's MoDOT. So you go St. Louis County, which they had already done most of the striping all the way up to Rock Hill Road. Then they did some striping because it's county. And of course, the Rock Hill Road intersection is us and county. Then you get to here, this bridge is MoDOT. And then as you continue through here, now it gets back to a combination of some county and some MoDOT. And then we get to railroad. And then we get back to county and us. So there's a whole lot of entities as each changes to jurisdiction. It's not an easy or a pleasant one, but we can figure it out.
Like that's gonna take a lifetime.
Yeah.
We'll work on it, definitely.
What does the new announcement about the bridge coming down do to all this?
Well, that was my next thing.
Okay,
But remember, it's not this bridge coming down. It's the bridge at I-44 and Big Bend.
Oh,
It's not, everyone was confused. It's not this bridge. It's the bridge at I-44 and Big Bend. It will be down for some time between 4 and 5 months. And it is planned for 2022. But what that will mean for you, which we had a big conversation with the Public Works Department, what that will mean for you is now everyone who is trying to get on, because that'll be closed down for 4 to 5 months, the only intersections to get on 44 from sort of Big Bend, you'll have to go all the way to Kirkwood or Elm. Elm is going to be the go-to if someone needs to get on 44 because they can't get on at Big Bend, the Big Bend intersection. Now we're talking with them. They did not get with us ahead of time before the public meeting that was happening, not farther in advance than they probably should have. So Public Works only heard about it a couple days ago. And so we're going to need to think through. I'm not sure if the school district has really been informed. I found out about this yesterday afternoon. We need to make sure they know, because of course, by the time 2022 comes, spring, we now have 3 grades at Hickson, which that's going to be huge. A lot more kids walking through this intersection. It's bad enough as it is. Now people are going to be frustrated because they can't get on at Big Bend intersection, and they're going to be, making those quick movements and trying to potentially get on to 44 here at Big Bend. Again, just informed about that yesterday afternoon. So it's on my to-do list to try to figure out some things. It's not really my department when it comes to it's roads and it's public works. But I want to keep informed on that to make sure you're in the loop, as well as to make sure my connections with the school district that I can keep them in the loop, because we work with them right now on the construction at Hickson. So that's going to be big, and I'll keep you in the loop. We had talked about, Public Works had talked about asking them to maybe push it further back into summer versus starting in spring. That will change the impact of some of the traffic when it comes to the schools and the buses and the kids walking, but I don't know if we're going to be able to do that, but I think we should try.
wow.
So sorry, that jumped to something that was on my new business that I found out and was not yet on Streetscape. So I don't know if there's other questions on Streetscape.
Yeah, so let's go over those bump outs too, Mara. There's one in front of the old Porter Paints, right?
Mhm.
And there's one in front of Heidi and Kelly's building right in there.
That little sliver, yeah.
And that will choke off a driving lane, correct?
That would choke off the lane so that people would go from, right now there's only one lane. It'll stop from the parking and direct them to be able to go into 2 lanes.
And the one right across the street, the corner, will also do the same thing, have the same effect of choking off a driving lane.
Well, yeah, there will no longer be a driving lane at all whatsoever on the
Okay.
north side until you get all the way to the intersection.
Okay.
It's just sort of an end to the parking to keep them from
Okay.
continuing to park.
All right.
Right now, the parking on mine and Heidi's side is you can't park there between 7 and 9 a.m. So will the bump outs make it parking 24/7?
That is correct.
Okay, good. All right.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay,
because you no longer need that as a driving lane. The reason why it was no parking on those times was that it was to keep the flow of traffic so you can have 2 lanes because
Yeah.
of the people going in a particular direction, mornings, evenings. That's supposed to be the way to keep the flow of which direction they have the most traffic, to keep multiple lanes open.
okay,
But of course, once you get past this intersection, it goes down to 1 lane in either direction. And once you get past in the other direction, it's 1 lane in either direction. So it's not really necessarily, helping with a lot of the flow, other than it's helping with the flow of getting people down here and onto 44.
right.
And Mara, you were talking about in front of the 2 homes a little earlier, and something else popped up on my screen I had to read. Sorry about that. Would you mind, sorry to apologize, but would you repeat all what you were saying about in there?
Well, if we did do something in here and added, they wanted us to move the curb out and move it a little further out. There could be a way that we could move the curb a little bit further out, but it would also mean sort of having to do a couple different things. Like we could do that in the right of way, but we would have to help redo this person's driveway. And so we just have to see what those costs would be. That's not something that's not actually within your taxing district. So I'd have to see how that would impact, but we'll make sure that if that needs to be in there, figure out what those costs are.
Have you had any conversations with Jim since our last meeting on anything?
No, not on this project.
On any others? He hasn't signed, you guys haven't talked about this?
No, Jim Knoll and I have not talked about this at all, only because I told him we were moving forward with Cochrane, drawing everything up, and that we would get back with him when we had something new. Anything
right.
else on this?
Any questions for Mara? Any further questions?
No, I'm cool.
Nope.
Yeah.
Me too.
Back to the agenda. So our next thing is budget discussion. So actually, let me pull up something else. Sorry, I've got a bunch of stuff on my screen. So I'm going to do a quick reminder about our budget discussion. And I know that this is the first time Sarah's been at one of our meetings when we've had a budget discussion. So typically in January, we do a quick reminder of what your last year's budget was, so that it can refresh you to think about what do you want to put in for your new budget. Then typically in February, we have an extended meeting so we can discuss your budget, figure out exactly what numbers you want put in there. If there's anything in particular you need me to do additional research on, I hope that maybe you could let me know some of that in January, and then that could help move us into February. By the March meeting, I have to be completely done because I have to have all my numbers into our finance system so that it can start the process of going to our city manager, going to drafts of work sessions to determine if there's anything that, and in your case, usually nothing gets cut out of your budget, but I have a budget, my own department budget, and things get cut, or we talk about other things that need to be added. And then that all works its way up to a work session with the city council, a budget work session on a special evening where we spend hours just kind of going through all the different items on all of our budgets. And then it eventually goes to a public hearing. And then that public hearing leads to a final vote in order to get the budget approved so that we can have an approved budget by July 1. So it's a lot of buildup, a lot of things that we have to work on. But usually in every tax district meeting in January, I try to have this conversation so that then we can be better prepared for our work session in February. So as a reminder, normally I print this out for you and you have it sitting in front of you, but I'm sharing my screen. We'll see how we can do with this. But so just as a reminder, usually what we have over here on this side is the 2021 budget that we approved in this column here. We have the expenses to date. I try to keep that I put things in as I'm paying bills. And then I always cross-check it against our actual finance system because they pay some of the bills. Like I don't actually pay the lighting bill to Ameren for your parking lot lighting. Then there's a balance to date. And then as a reminder, I usually have, and I haven't had time to update this to make sure it is completely accurate. Usually I have a beginning balance to your fund balance of what you have left over from past years that is built up in your fund balance. And just as a reminder, we used money in your fund balance with a match with some money from the city council to pay for the engineering to be done. So I believe this fund balance is actually lower than it is, and I need to cross-check it. Then we usually have over here what our expenses to date are and what revenue has come in to date. As a reminder, it's really early, it's January. So our revenue that's come in is, people are paying their taxes, but we still don't get the property tax amount until much later in the year from St. Louis County. There's also people starting to pay business licenses, but business licenses aren't due until April. So usually we don't have a better sense of where your revenue is until much sooner. I'm going to move over. I have a couple things floating on my screen. Over here, all the way on the side is our revenue history. This is typically what we would expect. I usually anticipate we're going to get about $24,500 in revenue from the tax district. As a reminder, your tax district is made up of two things. It's property taxes from all the properties that are currently within the tax district. They pay a certain amount that then goes through St. Louis County and then is given back to you. And then there's a small amount that comes in with every business license. And all that money pulled together usually amounts to about $24,000 for you. So here's a history off to the side that reminds you that what it's been since 2008. And yours is the one district that seems to hold almost dead steady. You are anywhere between, there was 1 year it went down to 22,000. There was 1 year it went up to 26,000, 2 years, but usually you're right on target at about 24,000. Last year was the lowest one we had. It was $23,535. So again, I think you're kind of on track. I don't see any really, as we're, the city council is getting updates on how we're doing on our own, just overall city things coming in. This, I think, bodes well that you kind of kept pretty steady, even with some of the things in 2020 that were going on. So as a reminder, I usually do a current fund balance and what a projected balance. So if everything was spent that you had budgeted, which I don't see everything being spent that you had budgeted, you would end up with a pretty low fund balance. But I do want to check some of those numbers. I also always put over here all of the past budget years, so you can see what you'd spent on different items. I also put what you budgeted each year and what you actually spent. So like last year, you had put in the 20,000 to transfer out for the streetscape, and we didn't do it last year. We didn't transfer it out until this year. So you only spent 24,000. Same thing with previous years. You usually have additional money for a facade beautification or for some area improvements in case we need to replace a tree or a park bench, because I know we have a bench in the district. So we haven't really spent those in past years. So you can see in the past, we've usually spent about what we've brought in, which means that if there's money in the fund balance, we haven't been going over and spending into your fund balance. Then as a reminder, we always go down to this sort of part down at the bottom of things that we had done in the past that we set aside. So just as a reminder, we usually spend or put aside about $1,000 towards a social media, which is also a match with Old Webster, Old Orchard in the city. We also put $1,000 towards the BDC holiday package. This year they had TV ads about shopping Webster Groves. We had additional things in the Webster Kirkwood Times. We did have some stuff with the radio station. So there were a number of different things, and that package gets pulled together with the BDC. So we'd keep you up to date on what the BDC has going each year. Last year, we had money set aside for Hawken House series. We didn't send it over because they didn't end up having a series. I believe that they are going to have one this year. At least they have a couple things they're thinking about it. So something to think about. Ad for 4th of July, that's usually for the fireworks. See what we need to do about it for this year. We had initially thought the engineering design fee was $41,000. We'd gotten it down to $33,000 if I remember correctly. And we had partial match from the city funds and then match from your funds for that. We'd put in $2,000 for the facade beautification like we do each year. And then there's always money for the park staffing, which is putting together the pots, taking them in and out, watering them, the materials of the plants, making sure that if a pot gets hit, we have money for an additional pot to be purchased. If I remember correctly, we already had made sure we had at least one extra because yours are unusual and don't match other districts. So this is just that reminder. If there's anything you think right now that you really need some additional information on, please let me know. Just as a reminder, in past years, I usually cross-check like disposal services. That's the recycling, the single stream recycling that's in the Alma lot. I've been able to keep them kind of steady on not raising our fees. And it looks like we're looking pretty good. If we're past January, we're kind of right on track. We're a little high. We might need to bump up our disposal service cost because they might raise our fees slightly. Our advertising's still looking good. That again is money that we kind of put over to the social media and the holiday package that gets pulled out a little bit each month. Parking lot lighting, the overall costs haven't been super high. So we're looking okay on our electric bill for that. So any thoughts from anybody on any information to prep us for our budget discussion next month?
Has anyone requested the facade beautification monies?
Not this year. I didn't even talk with Union Bagel about it at all. We were so focused on getting their permits in and getting them moving. I even forgot to offer that was something that we could do for them. I can definitely offer that to them. Or we could just wait and see. I know that they had PPE money or some sort of funding due to COVID that was helping, which is the reason why they were able to open at this time. We might need some facade beautification. I know that there's some other, if I understand, if I remember, there's a for lease sign in the between acupuncture. Thank you. They might want to do some facade improvements if a new tenant comes in.
I thought that was for sale. Now it's for lease. I haven't talked to her.
I spoke with her. We went over and toured the place and just to kind of see as potential expansion if we needed some extra room. And she wanted to sell it when we were talking, and the realtor wanted to sell it. So I guess she would do either one. But they have all that remediation going on in the basement. There were tanks everywhere pulling gas out of the ground underneath, and chemicals being shot into the ground to break up some of the gas from the old gas station up on the corner, the Weir Sunoco.
Oh my gosh. So
when I went in there, it literally looked like a meth lab in the basement, and it smelled like the smell of gas snuffed you out.
Are you talking about the basement at the acupuncture?
Yep.
Yeah, they had about 2 years ago, they had a really, really big problem with the ventilation. We always do on that side, and they had to close up shop for the day, and the landlord had to come in and he had to do some of his own little ventilation. So that's all brand new. That was his suggestion to all the sewer gas buildup, because they were afraid it was at toxic levels that day.
Well, they were saying it's from the gas station leaking down.
Yeah.
Weren't up, but when I was down there, there were big plastic containers shooting chemicals underneath the concrete. There were drilled holes with pressure into it, and they were leaking into it to break up the flow like a river of gas underneath it. And it was a mess. If you could have seen all the stuff, there were probably, 10 drums of things down there. There's a chemical engineer guy down there working on stuff. There were fans blowing stuff out. There were dehumidifiers. There was just stuff everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
This was a couple weeks ago. So
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
it's really bad. So I don't know. And honestly, I went in it. It needs a complete gut. The floors are not level. Everything's shifted. There was an earthquake in Sunset Hills a few years back that unleveled the floor down there. It's going to take a lot of work, whoever gets it. So it's either someone's going to buy it and do nothing with it, and it's going to look like crap, or someone's going to go in and just gut it and make it look incredible and deal with all these issues.
Okay, I have to go because if I leave it, we still have a quorum.
Sorry, I've got the screen shared, so I can't see everybody.
I
Yeah,
think
There's 11.
Yeah, we should be good. Well, we can't count. Yeah, there's a bunch of people we can't count. That's okay. You're good. We got
okay,
Josh.
cool.
Yep, we're good.
Okay, bye guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
See ya.
Kelly.
Bye.
Hey, Chris, just out of curiosity, how much was the building?
It was 630,000. So it's not worth over 200,000 or 300,000 the way it sits.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at it and I said, I don't know how you're going to get anyone to rent this or sell it. And she had so many air purifiers, so many different brands. I mean, there were 5 or 10, $500 to $1,000 units upstairs to try to keep the chemical smell down from the employees and get the toxic stuff out of the air in there. It's literally like a third world country smelling in there. You know what I mean?
I can't believe that they have worked in that facility for that long.
If someone comes up with cancer, it would not surprise me.
Wow. And then I can't believe I don't know why they'd show it like that. You'd think they'd fix it.
Yeah, and the woman who owns it's really nice. I mean, she was wonderful, but I could barely go down in the basement long enough to see. It's a beautiful building. It's a beautiful area. It's got lots of room, but just honestly, it's going to take so much work. Sorry.
So a $2,000 facade grant is not going to do all that much.
I mean, it'll buy
Right.
an air cleaner.
Couple cases of Febreze.
Well, Christy, the other thing is they installed a $5,000 or $10,000 massive HEPA filter thing in the basement, and it can't even do the job. It was clogging up.
Wow.
That sounds gross.
It is, and it makes me sad because that was a bike store when I grew up. It was cool.
Right, Big Ben bike.
Yes, Big Ben bikes.
Got my blue one there.
You wonder if anybody else has that issue under the ground over there.
Well, they do. She said every building has it. Heidi, you're on mute.
Yes, I believe every building does. It's just, it's awful. I'm a slab building, thank God. But ever since I've been here, well, ever since this building was built when I was 12, they've had that problem. So
I asked her, I said, why aren't you going back to the Weir family or whoever owned it or something like that? And they said they are, but she's got to pay for it out of pocket. And then they've got to go back and try to get the money later. So that was kind of the fun. And Mara, I'm sorry to jump subjects. I was just dying to hear. I saw them working on the bagel place on the side, sandblasting it. It looks like it's really going to be cool. Were there ever plans presented? Is there going to be like what it looks like? Is there a little seating area, or does anyone know anything?
Yeah, so the plans are in, and I'd have to go back and look. We'd issued them a demo permit first. It's not going to have to go to Architecture Review Board because the only thing that they're going to do, we don't look at it if they're just painting the front, that kind of thing. The only thing that's being added onto the side is they're going to have to do like an extension for the cooler. But there is, there's a floor plan for the entry area. It really isn't being done as a sit down. It's really a pick up and go. I think you're going to be, a lot of you that have been around for a while are going to be pleasantly surprised to see the front facade. They're actually going to recreate the original Porter paint stripes, but in a different set of colors. So there's going to be the big diagonal stripes going across the front. And I do have a rendering, but I apologize, I didn't even think about it. I probably could have scanned it, but it's not on my computer. It's just in hard copies. But the only thing that's going to be the same, they are cleaning up the brick off the side, and then there will be a little appendage to it at the back of the building for their cooler area. They just needed a little bit more room for that cooler. But the interior I have floor plans for. What I could probably do after the fact is scan, since it's a public record now, scan those 2 images and send it out to all of you so you can see the floor plan and the elevation, because I think that'd be kind of fun to see.
That would be great. That would be great. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I was gonna give you an update in the next part. So is there anything else on budget I can get you numbers on before I go to updates on the city stuff? You guys don't have a complex budget, so I don't normally expect you to give me something wild and crazy. So I'll just prepare everything like I normally do. I'll give you a draft budget. Let me know. We're still going to be virtual for a while. I know we're going to. So the question would be, would you like us to either have hard copies of these available here, that you could pick up at City Hall? Do you want us to try to drop it off at your businesses? I don't mind dropping off. You guys are on my way home. So I could drop off at your various businesses. I could even probably have some help from Fran if I was stuck, but I could do that too. So just let me know if anyone needs hard copies, because I know it's a little difficult when it's on the screen. I know you guys like to write notes on these.
I'm fine.
Okay.
I think it would be
Yeah,
awesome if you could drop off.
Oh yeah, Heidi, yours is easy.
Yeah,
I think I'm supposed to be there in a week or 2, so I'll drop some off for you.
awesome. Thank you.
All right. I can go on. I'm going to go back to our, do you want me to put the agenda up, or do you just want to see everybody's faces?
Faces are fine.
Okay. So Bob, if you're okay, I'll go to city update.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So, let's start with the fun stuff. I'll start with some of the businesses. So Union Bagel, definitely plans are in. We're starting construction. They're starting construction on it. I'll try to send you some additional drawings on it because it's pretty cool. Lona's Little Eats. So for those that might have gone to Lona's in the city, they want to open a location in Webster Groves. So we have a conditional use permit application in for a location. So for those that remember, the Subaru dealership is on the south side of Big Bend. They also own a property on the north side of Big Bend. There's a little 2-story brick building and a parking lot where they used to park a bunch of vehicles. They'd actually drive over the sidewalk and park vehicles.
Right across the street.
Yeah, right across the street. Lona's has that property under contract. What they would like to do is change that area up top where the cars have been parked to an outdoor seating area. They want to then have a drive-through that would go along the east side of the building. And the restaurant itself will be in the basement of the building. It's got a steep slope right there. So down in the basement of the building, they're going to do an addition to take up part of the lot where they used to just kind of pack all the cars in. And then they would keep the first floor as an office use, keep the second floor, which has been an apartment that Subaru had leased out. But they need this conditional use permit for the drive-through use. If it was just going to be a restaurant use, they could have just stayed in that space and not needed any other permits from the city council or the planning commission. They did try to make it work where they just took over the whole building, and between fire codes, building codes, some of the square footage issues, they really couldn't get the kitchen in. It's a narrow building. So that will be before the Plan Commission on February 1st. We have it pre-advertised for it to go to the City Council to their second meeting in February, if everything goes well, and then we'll move it forward potentially for a vote at that next meeting in March. So I'm working with them on that. We have a new Wingstop going in down in Yorkshire Plaza, and they have permits in to go on in for construction. There are some additional tenant spaces in Old Orchard. There was a space that had been the CBD building, and then it had gone temporarily to a pop-up of a jewelry store. And that was over the holidays. And so now that space, and there's another space that's got improvements happening next to it. We're looking at
They took the whole facade off.
Yeah, they took the whole facade off. They've been cleaning it up. It's looking beautiful. So they're working on that one. And I've got a couple other bits and pieces that we're working on with a couple other potentials. I have developers calling all the time about different locations, but I share them when I can share them when it's officially in. I've been meeting with Lonas for like 6-8 months now. And this is finally, they turned something in so I could finally announce that I'd been working with them.
And if you guys don't know Lonas, does everyone know what Lonas is?
Mhm.
We're their marketing firm. And so Pierce and the family we've known for years. It is probably the best damn food of all time for noodles and stuff like that. It is so incredible. It's such a great asset. It became a destination downtown. And so having this here, like Gorilla Street Food and like Balkan Treat Box, we're getting some really incredible destination type restaurants that are fun, and they're choosing to move from their hipster downtown to their hipster Webster Groves, which is really cool for me. That's what I love. I love these one-off unique kind of fun stuff they're doing. So I just want to share with you how how exciting it is for me to see all this happen. Sorry, I digress. Mara.
No, we're super excited. I mean, between getting Union Studio to move a second location from the city, having Dharma and Dwell now in Old Orchard, we're working with a few things in Old Webster. Finally, the Le Macaron is trying to finish construction. They were kind of waylaid. Oh, and we're getting Didi Mao, new Vietnamese. They are in Maryland Heights, and they are opening where the old Forenza Pizza used to be. So Forenza had really hard, they just weren't open long enough before everything shut down, and they just couldn't stay. So Didi Mao is moving in. So there will be Vietnamese now, another Vietnamese restaurant. So it's pretty exciting. We're getting to be the place for restaurants. Gives lots of great food options. For those that don't know, Subaru also owned another piece of property at Big Bend and Laclede Station Road. There is a total access urgent care going in at that location. They have bought that property as well as the property to the west of it, which was another office use. And then they had to get a variance before the Board of Adjustment. They asked for 2 and they got 1. And then they've already been through Architecture Review Board, and then they're starting to work on construction drawings. So we've got that one coming in too. I just ran all my report numbers for the year. We actually had more permits come in than last year, which was a high last year. We had more inspections than previous years. We had just more. The only thing we had less of, we had a little bit less final issuance of permits for new homes. That went down, but we still had a lot of them in. So I think we still had 19 new homes versus the high prior to that, which was like 26. So we're still keeping up pretty tight with all of that. The Plan Commission is working on residential code amendments right now. We're working on 2 different things. We're working on a code amendment for updating just in general the volumetric space that a house can come up to, looking at the total square footage and floor area ratio, looking at the overall height of how tall it is over other structures. We're working on a lot of those bits and pieces related to updating that. We last updated it in 2016, and when we updated it in 2016, it had we made some changes, then it went to the council, they made some additional changes. We've seen how it's worked over the last couple years, and we found that we probably need to make some additional changes to that. We're also working on a 2-family section of our code. Currently, our A4 zoning allows for both single family as well as 2-family, but it's limited to only blocks that have 40% or more already having 2-family, which essentially means that you can only have 2-family in like 3 blocks in all of Webster Groves, which is ridiculous. It just doesn't continue to give us the idea of, or the opportunity for the type of diversity of size of homes, types of homes, rental versus ownership, and a lot of the flexibility that people are wanting to look at, especially as families want to continue to move forward with either staying in place, continuing to live here after they might have moved. There's just a lot of things, there's a lot of problems with that. So we're definitely working on that. We are opening it up to all A4 zoning, but then making sure that we have a few things that are important to be in place. It can't go on an undersized lot that's less than 7,500 square feet. We've mapped those things out. We've been doing a lot of things with our PowerPoint regarding that and showing what some of the provisions would be in order to have 2-family structures. If you want to follow any of that, I can forward you our staff report, our Plan Commission PowerPoint, but do know on February 1st, we are continuing those hearings on both of those code amendments. What's been fascinating, we were talking about this with all the department heads yesterday. I hate everything that's happened with the pandemic, and it's really hard for us to have the kind of meetings that we have like this. But the one benefit to this is that I've had more people attend my Plan Commission meetings in the last few months because they can do it from home. And so it's kind of fabulous. And I said yesterday, I said, I hate all of this, but the opportunities that it's provided for all of us, for example, my parents are on the East Coast. They've never seen my kid play basketball. They've got to see her play 2 high school basketball games because they're streaming the games now. So the excitement of those kinds of things, the opportunity for people to attend these things, it's still really difficult. It's still really hard. I don't know how, once we're in person, we'll make them still happen. We just don't have the technology in City Hall, and it's going to be kind of awkward. The fabulous thing right now with this type of Zoom is it makes it a whole lot easier for people to see the PowerPoint, be able to see the information, and be able to listen in. So we'll see how that
and participating in their government.
Yes. Yeah. And again, it's harder for smaller communities to do that. Our council chambers is beautiful, but it's definitely not built. The sound is going to be really difficult to work on, and how we're going to share screens and all of that. I'm not sure how it's going to work, but we're working on it. We'll try to see how that works. Let's see. Trying to think of anything else we've worked on. We did finish some updates on the parking codes. Those have been updated and approved by the city council. We did some additional things with driveways. I know Sarah's smiling because it went for a very long time. The council is currently talking about golf carts. So if anyone wants to listen in on golf cart discussion and issues with that, safety questions, that's also on there. And then our new city manager started. So she's on her 2nd week. She had her first council meeting last night, or Tuesday night. We had our first staff meeting with her yesterday. Super excited. I think there's just a lot of things that we're going to be working on through all of this. The city council, as well as all the various departments, are working on an equity audit. Each department has done a survey and is working with beloved communities on diversity, equity, and inclusion for the community, and how we all work with the community. So you can continue to listen to hear about all of that. I think I have everything. Sarah, am I forgetting anything from the council?
I would just mention, I guess, the use tax, the ballot initiative that's coming up. And I don't know that I'm super qualified to speak to. It's basically just to me, it's kind of a leveling of the playing field for our brick and mortar businesses with those online and out of state, so that the same sort of tax rate is being applied across those sales. But that'll be a ballot issue and maybe the only thing on our ballot for the spring election.
I think so. Yeah, I think the only thing on the ballot for spring. Thank you. I forgot about that.
Yep, for sure.
I think that's everything in terms of updates. For those that don't know, we are here at City Hall. We have not closed. And we are here. We're doing a few things in different manners. Architectural Review Board still via Zoom. So we're doing a lot of extra stuff to try to keep those meetings moving. But people are still doing additions and renovations and projects and everything else.
Did they hire a supervisor for the front desk?
Nope, no supervisor hired yet for the front desk. I know they're close. And then we've had a number of retirements. So we also had a retirement in our court. So we actually stole one of the court staff from Rock Hill. She's now working with us. We're excited to have her here. So we have a new court staff from someone who retired. We had a retirement in the Public Works Department, and they're filling that position. We have the additional position for the supervisor at the front desk. And then I know that we're going to be looking at some potential new staffing or additional staffing. I actually had two additional staff that were supposed to be new in last year's budget that we had cut due to everything that was going on. But I'm going to need it. So we're going to try to put it in again, see what we can do. Our inspections are out almost 2 days at this point because we are getting so many building inspections in. And I've got a couple staff that are supposed to be in the office and they're kind of out in the field helping out, and we're keeping it moving. So Allison, not yet, but I know they've done their interviews.
Good.
Mara, is Dave Christensen, is he still the contact at Cochrane on our file?
He's my contact, but the engineer who's doing the drawings is Kevin Wolf. So I'm working with Kevin Wolf. Kevin is the one who drew up the streetscape for the other project in Old Orchard. And that Old Orchard project, they're still waiting on some MoDOT final sign-offs. They're hoping to start construction for their section in end of March, early April at the latest. If you haven't driven down there, Missouri American Water moved they completely redid their line, which had to move it from under their sidewalk, which is where our new streetscape is going, to the middle of one of the lanes. So they moved that out, and then they've moved all the utilities because all the utility lines had to be moved. So all the utilities have been moved, and there's still kind of partial poles kind of cut off up and down that area. And they've got patched sidewalk until they can get the project started. Kind of a mess right now. And at some point, and I know they have it phased out, I believe they're supposed to do some additional water line work, and I don't think it's in your area yet, but I'll keep an eye on and make sure you're aware if they have anything coming up anytime soon.
Could you ask Kevin for drawings, say, because our next meeting is 4 weeks from today. Could you ask Kevin for drawings, say 2 weeks from today, and that way you can review them and make any suggested changes for him, and so that by our next meeting, we would be looking at it and deciding if that's what we're going to submit to Jim and at Traffic and Highways. Does that sound like a game plan?
Yep, let me ask him, and if he immediately gets back with a concern, I will get right back with all of you.
Okay, because I'm afraid that if we wait and just see if they're able to provide them 4 weeks from today, they're going to get on it. They're going to start working on it, and we'll just be up against it again next meeting.
And I gave him the reminder of, hey, where is it? And then so I'm sure they're trying to get on it. I know he'd said, I can't remember if he is currently quarantining or I'm sensitive.
It can decimate an office, no doubt about it. I understand that.
Yeah.
But maybe if we could Maybe we don't have to tell him that our next meeting is 4 weeks from today, but ask him, you know, hey,
I'll
can we,
ask if we get it by that date and let's see what he says.
2 weeks? Okay, sounds good.
I'll also scan the images for Union Bagel and get those emailed to you guys.
Any other questions for Mara?
Nope.
Okay, if I could get a motion to adjourn. Thanks, Mara.
Thanks.
I motion. I motion. Christie.
Christie, thanks, Christie. Second by Chris. All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Anybody opposed?
Before you go, just one
Okay.
quick reminder, we do need to make sure that at the next meeting, we have additional time to discuss budget. Sometimes it takes us like, you know, I think we sometimes set aside an hour and a half just to be safe. I don't think you guys have ever needed to use all that time. Yours isn't as complex as a couple of the others, but just think about that.
Will do.
All right.
Thanks, then.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye, everybody. Have a good day.
Okay. Right, Phil, actually. Bye-bye.